It was quite clear it would not have happened. The family would not have disgraced, and the world of Gammer would not have been stunned and horrified if Chalker Minor had not made the Grand Tour. It wasn't exactly illegal to make the Grand Tour, but on Gammer at least, it was not really socially acceptable. Elder Chalker had been against it from the start, to do him justice, but then Lady Chalker took the side of her minor, and mothers are, at times, not to be withstood. Chalker was her second child, both of them sons, it happened, and she would have no more, of course, so it was not surprising that she doted on him. Her younger son had wanted to see the other worlds of the orbit, and had promised to stay away no longer than a year. She had wept and worried and gone into a tragic decline, and then finally had dried her eyes and spoken stiffly to Elder Chalker, and Chalker Minor had gone. Now he was back, 1 year to the day. He was always one to keep his word, and besides, Elder support would have ceased the day after, never fear, and the family made holiday. Elder wore a new black, glossy shirt, would not permit him the prim lines of his face to relax, nor would he stoop to ask for details. He had no interest in whatever, in the other worlds with their strange ways and their primitive browsing. No better than the ways on Earth, on which Gammer people never spoke. He said, "Your complexion is dirtied and spoiled, Chalker Minor." The use of the full name showed his displeasure, and Chalker laughed, and the clear skin of his rather thin face crinkled. "I stayed out of the sun as much as I could, Elder mine, but the other worlders would not always have it so." Lady Chalker would have none of Elder's criticism. She said warmly, "It isn't dirtied at all, Elder. It breathes a warmth." "Of the sun. It would be next. It would be grubbing in the filth they have there." "No farming for me, Elder. That's hard work. I visited the fungus vats at times, I will say." And Chalker Major, older than Minor by 3 years, wider of face, heavier of body, but otherwise of close resemblance, was torn between envy of his younger brothers having seen different worlds of the orbit, and revulsion at the thought of it. He said, "Did you eat their prime, Minor?" I had to eat something. Of course, there were your packages, Lady Mine. Lifesavers sometimes." "I suppose the prime was inedible out there. Who can tell the filth that found its way into it?" "Come now, Elder mine." Chalker paused as though attempting to choose words, and then shrugged. "Well, it held body and soul together. One got used to it, I won't say more than that, but Elder, Lady mine, I am so glad to be home. The lights are so warm and gentle." "Yeah, you've enough of the sun, I take it. But you would go. Well, welcome back to the inner world with light and warmth under our control, locked away from the patch and blaze of the sunshine. Welcome back to the womb of the people, as the saying goes." "Yeah, I am glad I went. 8 different worlds, you know. It gives you a view you don't otherwise have." "Yeah, and would be better off not having." "Well, I'm not sure about that," said Chalker Minor, and his right eyelid trembled just slightly as he looked at Major. And Chalker Major's lips compressed, but he said nothing. It was a feast. Anyone would have admitted that, and in the end it was Chalker Minor himself, the greediest to begin with, who was the first to push away. He had no choice, else Lady would have kept on supplying him with samples out of what seemed to be bottomless larder. "Ah, Lady mine, my tongue wearies. I can no longer taste anything."
you not taste? What kind of nithling story is that? You have the skill of the Grand Elder himself. At age 6, you were already a gustator. We had endless proof of that. There was not an additive you could not detect, even when you could not pronounce it right.
Taste buds blunt when not used, said Elder Darkroom. And jogging the other worlds can utterly spoil a man.
Yes, well, let's see. Minor mine, tell your doubting elder what you have eaten. In order? Yes, show him you remember.
And Chalker Minor closed his eyes.
It's scarcely a fair test. I so relished the taste I did not pause to analyze, and it's been so long.
He has excuses, see, lady?
But I will try. In the first place, the prime base for all of them is from the fungus vats of the east section and the 13th corridor within it. I believe, unless great changes have been made in my absence. No, you are right.
And it was expensive. The prodigal returns, says Chalker Major, but a bit acidly. We have the fatted fungus, as the saying goes, but the additives, can you get those, Minor?
Well, the first dab was strongly spring morning, which added lees of freshened and a touch, not more than a touch of spara sprig. Perfectly right, said Lady, smiling happily, and Chalker Minor went on with the list, his eyes still closed, his taste memory rolling backward and forward luxuriously over the tang and consistency of the samplings. He skipped the 8th and came back to it. This one puzzles me. Chalker Major grinned.
Didn't you get any of it?
Of course I did. I got most of it. There was frisking lamb. Not leaping lamb either, frisking, even though it leaned just a bit toward leaping.
Come on, don't try to make it hard, that's easy. What else?
Green mint, with a touch of sour mint. Both a dusting of sparkle blood. But there was something else I couldn't identify.
Well, was it good?
Good? This isn't the day to ask me that. Everything's good. Everything is succulent. But what I can't identify seems very succulent. It's close to hedge bloom, but better.
Better? It's mine.
What do you mean yours?
Asked Chalker Minor. An elder with stiff approval said, Stay at home, son, has done well while you were gone. He devised a computer program that is designed to produce 3 new life-compatible flavor molecules of considerable promise. Grand Elder himself has given one of Major's construction's tongue room. Very one of everyone has tested it. Now fly away, minor mine. He has given it approval. Chalker Major said, Well, he didn't actually say anything, Elder Mine.
His expression needed no words, said the lady. Is it good? Well, I suppose it has to be. Will you be entering for the awards?
It has been in my mind, said Chalker Major, with an attempt at indifference. Not with this one. I call this one Purple Light, by the way, but I believe it has something else more worthy of the competition. Chalker Minor frowned.
I had thought that...
Yes?
That I am ready to stretch out and think of nothing. Come, half a dab more of Major's construction, lady mine, and let's see what I can deduce concerning the chemical structure of his purple light. For a week,
The holiday atmosphere in the Chalker household continued. Elder Chalker was well known in Gammer, and it seemed that half the inhabitants of the world must have passed through his section before all had had their curiosity sated, and could see with their own eyes that Chalker Minor had returned unscathed. Most remarked on his complexion, and more than one young woman asked if she might touch his cheek, as though the light tan were a lair that could be felt. Chalker Minor allowed the touch with lordly complacency, though Lady disapproved of these forward questions and said so. Grand Elder Tomaz himself came down from his eyrie, as plump as a Gammer man ever permits himself to be, and with no sign that age or white hair had blunted his talents. He was a master gustator, such as Gammer might have never seen before, despite the tales of Grand Elder Farin of half a century ago. There was nothing that Tomaz tongued that did not open itself in detail to him. And Chalker Minor, who had no great tendency to underrate his own talent, felt no shame in admitting that what he himself had innately could not yet come anywhere near the old man's weight of experience. The Grand Elder, who for nearly 20 years now had governed the annual award festival by force of his skill alone, asked closely after the other worlds, which of course he himself had never visited. He was indulgent, though, and smiled at Lady Chalker.
No need to fret, lady. Young people these days are curious. In my time, we were content to attend to our own cylinder of worth, as the saying goes. But these are new times, and many are making what they call the grand tour. Good, perhaps, to see the other worlds. Frivolous, sun-drenched, browsive, non-gustational, without a taste bud to content with themselves. Make one appreciate the eldest brother, as the saying goes.
And Grand Elder Tomaz was the only Gamma man whom Chalker Minor had ever actually heard speak of Gamma as the eldest brother, although you could find it often enough in the video cassettes. It had been the third colony to be founded in the moon's orbit, back in the pioneering years of the 21st century. But the first two, Ulfer and Bater, had never become ecologically viable, and Gammer had. Chalker Minor said with tactful caution,
The otherworld people never tired of telling me how much the experience of Gammer meant to all the worlds that were founded afterwards. All had learned, they said, from Gammer.
Certainly. Certainly, that is well said.
And yet, such is self-love, you understand, Grand Elder, that a few thought they had improved on Gammer.
Grand Elder Tomaz puffed his breath out through his nose and fixed Chalker with his deep blue eyes that looked the bluer for snow-white eyebrows that curved about them.
Improved? In what way? Did they suggest a specific improvement? In matters that they value, I gather. I am not a proper judge of such things, perhaps.
In matters that they value. Did you find a world that knows more about food chemistry than we do?
No, certainly not, Grand Elder. None concern themselves with that as far as I could see. They rely on your findings. They admit to it openly.
They can rely on us to know the effects and side effects of 100,000 molecules, and each year to study, define, and analyze the effects of 1,000 more. They rely on us, out of the dietary needs of elements and vitamins to the last syllable. Most of all, they rely on us to work out the art of taste, to the final, most subtly convoluted touch. They do so
do they not? They admit all this without hesitation.
And where do you find computers more reliable and more complex than ours?
As far as our field is concerned, nowhere.
And what prime do they serve? Or do they expect our young Gamma Man to browse?
No, Grand Elder. They had Prime. On all the worlds I visited, they had Prime. And all those I did not visit, I was told there was also Prime. Even on the worlds where Prime was considered fit chiefly for the lower classes.
Idiots.
Different worlds, different ways. But even then, Grand Elder, Prime was popular. When something was needed that was convenient, inexpensive, and nourishing, they got their Prime from us. And all of them had fungal strain brought originally from Gamma.
Which strain?
Strain A5. It's the sturdiest, they said, and the most energy-sparing.
And the coarsest? And what flavor additives?
Very few. There was on Caper a place where they had an additive that was popular with the Kappa people, and that had possibilities. Those were not properly developed, however. When I distributed tastes of what Lady Mine had sent me, they were forced to admit that it was to theirs as Gamma is to a space pebble. You had not told me that, said Lady Chalker. The other worlders liked my preparations, did they? Oh, I didn't often hand it out. I was too selfish to do it, but when I did, they liked it a great deal, Lady Mine.
It was several days before the two brothers managed to find a way to be alone together. And Major said, "Weren't you on key at all?" And Chalker Minor lowered his voice.
I was. Just a couple of days. It was too expensive to stay long.
I have no doubt Elder would have liked even 2 days.
Well, I don't intend on telling him, do you?
A witless remark. Tell me about it. And Chalker Minor did.
The point is, Major, it doesn't seem wrong to them. They don't think anything of it. It makes me think that perhaps there is no real right and wrong. What you're used to, well, that's right. What you're not used to, well, that's wrong.
Try telling that to Elder.
What he thinks is right, and what he is used to are precisely the same. You have to admit that.
What difference does it make what I admit? Elder thinks that all rights and wrongs are written down by the makers of Gamma, and that's it. All in all, a book written by one. And I'm speaking metaphorically, of course.
And I believe that too, Major. Metaphorically. But it shook me to see how calmly those other world people took it. I could watch them browse.
Animals, you mean?
It doesn't look like animals when they browse on it.
You watch them kill and dissect that...
No. I just saw it when it was all finished. What they ate looked like some kind of prime. And it smelled like some kinds of prime. I imagined it tasted...
Chalker Major twisted his expression into one of extreme revulsion, and Chalker Minor said defensively,
"But browsing came first, on Earth, I mean. And it could be that when Prime was first developed on Gamma, it was designed to imitate the taste of browse food."
I prefer not to believe that.
Well, what you prefer doesn't matter.
Listen, I don't care what they browse. If they ever got the chance to eat real Prime, not strain A5, but the fatted fungus, the saying goes, and if they had the sophisticated additives and not whatever primitive trash they use, they would eat forever and never dream of browsing. If they could eat what I have constructed and will yet construct.
So you're really going to try for the award, Major?
I think I will, Miner. I really will. Even if I don't win, I eventually will. The program I've got is different. It's not like any computer program I've ever seen or heard, and it works. It's all in the... Hey, I hope, Miner, you don't mind if I don't tell you about it. I haven't told anyone.
It would be foolish to tell anyone if you really have a good program. You can make your fortune, and you know that. Look at Grand Elder Tomas. It must be 35 years since he developed Corridor Song, and he still hasn't published his path.
Yes, but there's a pretty good guess as to how he got it, and it's not really in my opinion. He shook his head doubtfully. Chalker Miner said,
The reason I asked you if you were going to try for the award is, well, is that I was rather thinking of entering myself.
You? You're scarcely old enough.
I'm 22. But, would you mind?
You don't know enough, Miner. When have you ever handled a computer?
What's the difference? A computer isn't the answer.
No? Well, then what is?
Taste buds.
Taste buds are hit and miss all the way. We all know that sound, and I will jump through zero axis in a bound too, as the saying goes.
But I'm serious, Major. A computer is only the starting point, isn't it? It all ends with the tongue, no matter where you start.
And of course, a master gustator like Miner Lad here can do it. And Chalker Miner was not too tan to flush.
Maybe not. And you know it. The point is that being away from home for a year, I've gotten to appreciate good prime and what might be done with it. And I've learned enough. Look, Major, the tongue is all I've got. And I'd like to make back the money that Elder and Laylee spent on me. But do you object to my entering? Do you fear the competition?
There is no competition to fear. If you want to enter, do so, minor child. But don't come whimpering to me when you're ashamed. And I tell you, Elder won't like you making a no-taste batch of yourself, as the saying goes.
Nobody has to win right away. Even if I don't win, I eventually will, as the saying goes.
And, as the days passed, Chalker Miner found himself more and more involved preparing the ultimate sample of flavored prime, which his own taste buds and olfactory area would tell him was to be nothing like anything he had ever rolled across a gammered tongue before. He took it upon himself to visit the prime vats themselves, where the delectably bland fungi grew out of malodorous wastes and multiplied themselves at extraordinary speed, under ideal conditions, into 36 basic strains, each with its varieties. The master gustator, tasting unflavored prime itself, the fungal unalternate, as the saying went, could be relied upon to pin its source down to the section and corridor. Grand Elder Tomas had more than once stated publicly that he could tell the very vat itself, and at times the portions of the vat, though no one had ever quite put him to the full test. Chalker Miner did not pretend to the expertise of Tomas, but he lipped and tongued and smacked and nipped till he had decided on the exact strain and variety he wanted, the one that would best blend with the ingredients he was mixing in his mind. A good gustator, said Grand Elder Tomas,
could combine ingredients mentally and taste the mixture in his own imagination. And with Tomas it might, for all one knew, be just a statement. But Chucker Minor took it seriously and was sure he could do it. He had rented out space in the kitchen, another expense for poor Elder, although Chucker Minor was making do with less than Major had demanded. And Chucker Minor did not repine at having less, for since he was eschewing computers, he didn't require much. Mincers, mixers, heaters, strainers, and the rest of the cookery tools took up little room. At least, he had an excellent hood for the masking and removal of all odors. Everyone knew the horror tales of the gustateurs who had been given away by a single sniff of odor, and then found that some creative mixture was in the public domain before they could bring it before the board. To steal someone else's product might not be, as Lady would say, in good taste, but it was done, and there was no legal recourse. The signal light flashed in a code sufficiently well known. It was Elder Chalker. Chalker Minor felt the thrill of guilt he had felt as a child when he pilfered dabs of prime reserved for guests. "One moment, Elder Mine." "I'm sorry, Elder Mine," he said with an attempt at lightness, "but gustatorship is paramount." "I understand," said Elder stiffly, though his nostrils had flared momentarily as though he would have been glad to catch the fugitive whiff. "But you've scarcely been at home lately. Scarcely more than when you were on your space folly. I must come here to speak to you." "No problem, Elder. We'll go to the lounge." The lounge was not far away, and fortunately it was empty. Elder's sharp glances this way and that made the emptiness seem fortunate for him, and Chalker Minor sighed inaudibly. He would be lectured, he knew. "Minor, you are my son, and I will do my duty towards you. And my duty does not consist, however, of more than paying your expenses and seeing to it that you have a fair state in life. There is also the matter of approval and good time. Who wishes fair prime must not stint on foul waste, and as the saying goes." And Chalker's eyes dropped. He, along with his brother, had been among the 30 who had now qualified for the final awarding to be held in a week, and the unofficial rumor had it that Chalker Minor had done so with a somewhat higher score than Chalker Major had. "Elder, would you ask me to do less than my best for the sake of my brother?" And Elder Chalker's eyes blinked in a moment of puzzlement, and Chalker Minor clamped his mouth shut. He had clearly jumped in the wrong direction. "I do not ask you to do less than your best, but rather more than you are doing." "The more Gamor's people saw the other worlds, the better it would be for all of us. We are too close to society, in my opinion, and Elder, I am not the first to say so." "Yeah, I have heard of radicals who have said so, but not in our section and certainly not in our family. We have endured longer than the other worlds. We have a stabler and fitter society. We do not have their problems. Is there crime among us? Is there corruption among us?" But Elder, it is at the price of immobility and living death. We're all so tied in, so enclosed. What can they teach us, these other worlds? Were you not yourself glad to come back to the enclosed and comfortable section of Gamor, with their corridors lit in the golden light of our own energy? Yes, but you know, there are many things on other worlds that I would have very much liked to have made myself accustomed to.
And
Just exactly what, minor madman of mine? Why, simply make assertions. When I can prove that a particular otherworld way is superior to Gamma fashion, I will produce the proof. Until then, what is the use of just talking? You have already been talking idly without an end, minor, and it has done you so little good that we can call what it has done you harm outright. Minor, if you have any respect left for me after your grand tour, which lady yours wheeled out of me against my will, Gamma knows. If you have any regard for the fact that I still deny you nothing that my credit can obtain for you, will you keep your mouth shut henceforward? Think not that I will halt at sending you away if you shame us. You may then continue on your grand tour for as long as orbit lasts, and be no son of mine thereafter. As you say, Elder, from this moment on, unless I have evidence, I will say nothing. Since you will never have evidence, I will be satisfied if you keep your word. The annual finals was the greatest holiday occasion, the greatest social event, the greatest excitement of any sort in the course of the year. Each one of the 30 dishes of elegantly flavored prime had been prepared, and each one of the 30 judges would taste each dish at intervals long enough to restore the tongue. It would take all day. In all honesty, grammar people had to admit that the nearly 100 winners who had taken their prize and acclaim in Gamma history had not all turned out dishes that had entered the great menu as classics. Some were forgotten, and some were now considered ordinary. On the other hand, at least two of Gamma's all-time favorites, combinations that had been best sellers in restaurants and homes for decades, had been also rans in the years in which they had entered the contest. Black Velvet, whose odd combination of chocolate warm and cherry blossom had made it the standard sweet, this year did not even make it to the finals. And Chalker Minor, who had no doubt of the outcome, was so confident that he found himself in continual danger of being bored. He kept watching the faces of the individual judges, as every once in a while one of them would scoop up a trifle from one of the dishes and place it on his tongue. There was a careful blankness to the expression, a heavy-liddedness to the eye. No true judge could possibly allow a look of surprise or a sigh of satisfaction to escape him. Certainly not a quiver of disdain. They merely recorded their ratings on the little computer cards they carried. And Chalker Minor wondered if they could possibly restrain their satisfaction when they tasted his. In the last week, his mixture had grown perfect, had reached a pinnacle of taste glory that could not be improved on, and could not, counting on winning, said Chalker Major in his ear. And Chalker Minor started, turned quickly. Chalker Major was dressed entirely in platinum and gleamed beautifully. Chalker Minor said, "Come, Major mine. I wish you the best. I really do. I want you to place as high as possible. Second place. So you can win, right? Would you refuse second place if I win? You can't win. I've checked somewhat. I know your strain of prime. I know your ingredients. Have you spent any time on your own work? All of this you've been playing detective. Oh, don't worry about me. It didn't take long to learn that there is no way you can combine your ingredients into anything of value. You checked that with the computer, I suppose? Oh, yes, I did. Then how did you get into the finals, I wonder? Perhaps you don't know all there is to know about my ingredients. Look, Major, the number of effective combinations of even a few ingredients is astronomical if we can consider the various possible proportions and the possible treatments before and after mixing. And the order of mixing, I don't need your lecture, minor. Then you know that no computer in existence has ever been programmed for the complexity of a clever tongue. Listen, you can add some ingredients in amounts so small as to be undetectable even by tongue, and yet they add a cast of flavor that represents a marked change. They teach you that in the other worlds, youngling. I learned that one for myself. And Chalker Minor walked away before he could be goaded into talking too much. There was no question that Grand Elder Tomaz this year, as in a large number of previous years, held the judging committee in the hollow of his tongue, as the saying went. He looked up and down the long table, at which all the judges had now taken their seats in order of preference, with Tomaz himself right in the middle. The computer had been fed. It had produced the results. There was complete silence in the room, where the contestants, their friends, and their families sat waiting for glory, or failing that, for the consolation of being able to taste all the contesting samples. The rest of Gamma, possibly without exception, watched by holovideo. There would, after all, be additional batches made up for a week of feasting, and the general opinion did not always match that of the judges either, though that did not affect the prize winning. Tomaz said, I do not recall an awarding in which there was so little doubt as to the computer's decision, or such general agreement. And there was a nodding of heads and smiles and looks of satisfaction, and Chalker Minor thought, they look sincere, not as if they're just going along with Grand Elder, so it must be his. Tomaz said, it has been my privilege this year to taste a dish more subtle, more tempting, more ambrosial than anything I have ever, in all my time and experience, tasted. It is the best. I cannot imagine it being bettered. The win is unanimous, and the computer was needed only to determine the order of the runner-ups. The winner is... Just that pause for effect, and then to utter surprise of everyone but the winner. And the winner is Chalker Minor for his dish entitled Mountain Cap. Young man, the award is yours. And Chalker Minor advanced for the ribbon, the plaque, the credits, the handshakes, the recording, the beaming. And the other contestants received their numbers in the list. Chalker Major was in 5th place. Grand Elder Tomaz sought out Chalker Minor after a while and tucked the young man's arm in his elbows. Well, Chalker Minor, it is a wonderful day for you and for all of us. I did not exaggerate. Your dish was the best I've ever tongued. And yet, you leave me curious and wondering. I identified all the ingredients, but There was no way in which their combination could produce what was produced. Would you be willing to impart your secret to me? I would not blame you if you refuse, but in the case of an accomplishment so towering, by one so young... Oh, I don't mind telling you, Grand Elder. I intend to tell everybody. I told my elder that I would say nothing till I had proof. And you supplied the proof. What? What proof? The idea for the dish occurred to me actually on the other world, Capper, which is why I called it Mountain Cap in tribute. I used ordinary ingredients, Grand Elder, carefully blended. All but one. I suppose you detected the garden tang? Yes, I did. There was a slight modification there, I think, that I did not follow. How did the other world you speak of affect matters? Because it was not garden tang, Gran Elder, not the chemical. I used a complicated mixture for the garden tang, a mixture whose nature I cannot be entirely certain of. You mean then that you can't reproduce your dish? Oh, I can reproduce it. Be certain of that, Gran Elder. The ingredient to which I refer is garlic. Whoa. That is only the vulgar term for mountain tang. Not mountain tang. That is a known chemical mixture. I'm speaking of the bulb of the plant. Grand Elder Tomas's eyes opened wide, and so did his mouth. And Chalker Minor continued enthusiastically. No mixture can duplicate the complexity of a growing product, Gran Elder. And on Kappa, they have grown a particularly delicate variety which they use in their prime. And they use it incorrectly, without any appreciation for its potentiality. I saw at once that a true Gamma person could do infinitely better. So I brought it back with me, a number of the bulbs, and used them to good advantage. You said it was the best dish of Prime you had ever rolled of a tongue. And if there is any better evidence than that for the value of opening our society, then... But he dwindled to a stop at last, and stared at Tomas with surprise and alarm. Tomas was backing away rapidly. He said in a gargling voice, A growth from the dirt I've eaten. And the Grand Elder had often boasted that such was the steadiness of his stomach that he had never vomited, not even in infancy, and certainly no one had ever vomited in the great hall of judgment. But the Grand Elder now set a precedent in both respects. And Chalker Minor had not recovered. He would never recovered. If it were exile that Elder Chalker had pronounced, so be it. He would never return. An elder had not come to see him off, neither had Major, of course. It didn't matter. Chalker Minor swore inwardly that he would make out somehow without their help, even if it meant serving on Capper as a cook. But Lady was there, however, the only person in all the field to see him off, and the only one to dare accept the non-person he had become. She shivered and looked mournful at Chalker Minor, filled with desperate desire to justify himself. Lady mine, it's unfair. It was the best dish ever made on Gamma. The Grand Elder said so himself, the best. If I had grated bulb in it, that didn't mean the dish was bad. It meant the bulb was good. Don't you see? The platform was about to take him up the ship's entrance. She was watching him, sadly, as though she knew she would never see him again. What did I do wrong, Lady mine? Can't you see, Minor mine, that what you did was not... And then the clang of the ship's port. drowned out her two last words, and Chalker Minor moved in and put the sight of Gammer behind him forever.